how can they get on your roadmap and on your budgets, if you have any? So can you talk a little bit about how you like to work with startups, what has worked well, or maybe what you even look for in a startup that you might work with? It'd be great if you can give an example, but if you can't, it's okay.
I'll definitely take this. I
Okay.
do this all day long. So, yes, there's a lot of inbounds, especially because I work at a big company, and I'm sure there's a lot of interesting ideas out there. One of the key problems that I see, and a lot of the folks I talk to, is they don't tell me what problem they're solving. It's sort of like, here's my solution, but never what the problem is. What is the pain point you're really trying to get at? If I don't see it in an introductory email, or even on the front page of the website, or in anything within the first 2 minutes, it's really hard for me to get excited. So that's like my main beef and pain point is, what problem are you solving? And then the next question I ask is, well, why are you better than the next guy? Because odds are there's somebody else that's almost tackling the same problem. Those are the two main messages I rarely hear, but if they answer those two questions, you're ahead of 90% of everyone else. So that's the best way to approach someone like myself, and just tell me what problem you're having. We can quickly figure out whether or not it's a problem I want to solve.
I would echo the second point. I think there's specific trends and things that are happening. I think some of it, like anything else, is timing. I think we all have our roadmaps, and there's probably 80% of that roadmap to 90% is pretty baked, and we're looking for partners to help fulfill those initiatives. And then there's that 10 to 20% of kind of experimental pilot. The way we work is very much similar, I think, to a lot of these guys, which is we'll use 1 to 2 centers to pilot something. If it works, we'll roll it out to the broader portfolio. And so I would agree. I would say 2 examples right now. I get inundated, I think, almost on a daily basis, people who can solve indoor mapping and people who can solve kind of offline people tracking. And literally every single day, but I think to the point earlier, which is nobody's telling me how that solution's better. They're just telling me that they've got the best solution. And it's a big challenge. It's obviously a big challenge for any small company to get on a larger company's radar. We've all got a billion things going on. But it is like how you're differentiating yourself compared to the competition, I think is like I said, going to put you ahead of most of those emails or most of those inbounds.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to what they both said, because it's the same thing with us, what problem are you solving, etc. But it's, can you bring us audience, right? Can you bring us, whether you can tap that audience through a social network like Facebook, which is hundreds of millions of users. The biggest challenge is somebody will walk in with a great product, but they really don't have access to a user base, right? So they're coming to us to say, well, if we work together with you, we'll get those users, right? We need to see some proof points typically beforehand, even if it's with a smaller user base.
Do you have a minimum?
We don't really have a number on it as a minimum. It depends on, it's all based on what that company happens to be doing, right? And if it's something unique, we have worked with, companies that have only raised seed rounds, right? But it just, again, is case-by-case basis how unique the product is and what they're offering.
One of the awesome things about the labs team and why we're in SF and everyone else is in Vegas is so that we can talk to startups all the time. So we handle almost all of our inbound with in-person, assuming we can schedule it. And it's just to keep the ideas flowing, give feedback to people. For those familiar with Downtown Project, which is kind of Tony's pet side project, he has a fund for downtown Las Vegas startups. So being able to just keep in touch with that community here is really important to us. In terms of kind of opening doors, or if you wanted to reach out to us, something that's really important, and it kind of goes into the audience piece, is being a labs team, what we can offer is not a giant audience. It's testing your idea, it's validating it, it's working with us as partners, which could open doors to Zappos. However, when they come to us and they expect like something that can go to Amazon overnight, and it's kind of that like unrealistic next step, that's usually the thing that doesn't get you that response right away. So just having realistic expectations.
So Dan, you also get pitched all the time, right? So what has impressed you about young companies that are working with some of these big brands, like either here or otherwise?
We can try this without the microphone. I'd say if we just went with David number one's framework, I think you'd get most of the way there.
It's like the dating game.
I think you get most of the way there for venture investors. What problem are you trying to solve, and why are you solving it in a unique and differentiated way? I think when I talk to companies, I want to see that they've developed a product that is relatively unique, so it's differentiated, and it is valuable to somebody, and to some people that matter. As venture investors, we probably care about a few other things that may or may not be as important to kind of a potential customer. Like, we really care a lot about team. Like, betting on an investor, betting on entrepreneurs who really know what they're doing, and really are going to run through walls and overcome adversity. That's important to us. It's got to be a market that is sizable. Like, it's got to matter on the scheme of things. So, like, it may be the coolest e-commerce tool you've ever seen, but if it's like a $20 million market, that's great for customers, but not necessarily for venture investors. And then, I talked about product, which is sort of the framework we just described. And then obviously, there's a deal to be had. So, like, that piece. So there's really, people, market, product, and then economics. That's how we sort of look at it. But the thing that impresses me almost always, is team. So you meet a compelling entrepreneur, and you're like, God, I really just want to be in business with that person. I want to give them money and see what they do with it. But you can also be impressed by traction and product.
Okay, so we're going to start with our pitches soon, but one last question for you guys is, in the last 12 months, where have you seen in your organizations or in the market the most unexpected success?
David.
An example.
Because you test tons of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So.
And this is not one of our things at all. I would say it's Lolly Wally Doodle, that Facebook company. I hope I got the name right. It's a mom in the Midwest who sells stuff on Facebook. It's baby clothes, and all she does is post a picture of it and ask you to comment with your email address, and she'll send you an invoice over email. She did $10 million in business in a few months on Facebook, and now she's got this army of moms in a basement, like, making clothes. So it's not your scale yet, but it's nothing. And now she has an e-commerce site, and she does no business. It's all on Facebook. So if you want to scrape email addresses, check out her.
What's her name? What's that?
I'm pretty sure it's Lolly Wally Doodle. Lolly Wally
Yeah.
Doodle. Yeah. I always want to say Polly Wally, but it's just Lolly Wally.
Not venture funded.
There are tech companies outside of Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
Okay, the Davis are just passing the.
I have a slightly amusing one that came up just this week. So it turns out that in the last couple of weeks, we've become extraordinarily excited about dating apps. And as apparently the only single person in my team, I'm the only one that's allowed to download them all and then do a comparative analysis. And so what is really surprising is just when we think about it, we're like, oh, there's a variety of goods, humans, and people have to filter and sort in order to acquire another human. And we're in the business of acquiring goods. Crazy analogy, but at the end of the day, what are different apps doing to sort through all this noise, right? There's so many different types of people, there's so many things you want to sort through. And so to us, we were like, wow, people are really spreading the interactions and spreading how they approach the dating scene on a mobile phone very differently. Some are using location, some are using filtering, there's all sorts of stuff out there. So we were surprisingly excited by the dating app scene. So tell your wife ahead of time you're going to download a dating app for research, but I encourage you to check some of them out.
What's the best one?
Oh, you don't know yet? Too early?
No, they're all really interesting.
I'll give you my phone, you can download it.
So I don't think ours is as exciting as dating apps, but we did a pilot in Q4 in one of our UK centers around what we call click and collect, so that's basically order online, pick up in store. And we had one of the bigger retailers do roughly 30% of their sales that way in Q4. That's a massive, massive shift, obviously, as we think about how we utilize our centers going forward. And I talked about the same-day delivery and all this other stuff. So that woke up the entire company, and certainly is not business as usual as a result.
Yeah, we have a company retailer we work with that had the same thing, actually. It's become a big part of their business.
I think unexpectedly, it's only from my own personal point of view as to what happened in the company, is that the way, in a coordinated manner, in December we released the movie Frozen, right, which became a huge hit. And immediately we launched a Frozen attraction at Disneyland, and we were able to do a Frozen mobile, app. We were able to do Frozen, if anybody knows Disney Infinity, which is the console game where you put the little figurines. The Frozen characters are now like flying off the shelves, right? And that going from a film to an attraction in a park to consumer products just went so smoothly, and just the demand for it is just unending. It's just pretty amazing.
That's great. Okay, so we're gonna start, and we're gonna